I saw a survey today about social media platforms that Gen Z wished didn't existed. It was like
Really?
50% of people wish they never
Do you feel like you didn't learn how to choose yourself?
I think our society lacks people. Like it feels like it doesn't feel safe to have opinions anymore.
You have to take the entire, all the baggage and the entire life associated as opposed to just money, right?
Hello guys, welcome back to the ttyl podcast. I'm your co-host Adrian.
And I'm your other co-host, Sarah. I don't... Damn it.
And we're joined by our good friend.
Are we still going
Wait.
with this?
I gotta do the other intro stuff. If you saw our last episode, Adrian tried out a new intro, teaser, trailer thing in the beginning, and I'm obsessed with it. I've been watching it so much. Just the intro part. But let us know what you think. And also, just as a debriefing, we're changing our titles from now on because we were trying to do different acronyms of ttyl to reflect the topic of the podcast, but it became way too hard. As you can tell, we started adding words and stuff, and for the roomy one, it was just way too hard to find something, so we finally just are gonna switch to just normal low-key clickbaity things. Our pod today is with our special guest, Dave. He is a good childhood friend of mine from Carmel, and then also a good friend of both of Adrian and mine from Purdue. But I'll pass it over to you to give a brief intro.
Pass it to me.
Pass it to you, Dave.
Yeah, hi everyone. I've known Sarah for as long as I can remember. We actually grew up on the same block together. Adrian, I had the fortune of meeting in college, and now we're all...
Misfortune.
Yeah, honestly.
Babe.
My life has gotten significantly worse ever since I met this guy. No cap.
That's consistent.
I'm working, I guess, remote in New York City. I guess I'm fortunate in the sense of I get to really live here just because I want to be here, not because I have a reason to do so. I know a lot of people that are generally constrained geographically, just based off of life circumstances, but that's really not the case with me. And I always kind of knew at the end of the day that I wanted to move to New York at some point in my life, even if it wasn't necessarily the greatest fit, just to try it out, right? And I'm actually pretty surprised that as I've moved here, there's a lot of people that have a similar mantra to that, so that's been nice to see. I've been in New York for a little over a year now, and I don't really see myself leaving anytime soon. It's been a pretty great experience so far.
Wait, really?
Whoa,
Yeah.
nice.
I think
Dude,
now that
my bet is that you're gonna leave first out of
everyone.
the Purdue kids.
Okay. Well, we'll see on that. I think
Wait.
if I was staying in Manhattan, I would bet on that too. But honestly, now that I've been staying out more in Brooklyn, it feels a lot more sustainable.
Oh, nice. How many years do you think you could see yourself being here?
Oh man, maybe I guess this doesn't seem that long when I actually think about it, but maybe it was 3 to 5. I really think it's kind of what
Dude,
I told.
that's long because you're gonna be 28, 30 by the time you fucking leave.
Yeah, the thing that I told myself is when I moved here, I didn't really set an expectation oh, I'm going to be living in the city for X amount of years and I'm going to make my exit. It's more I will leave when I feel like I have justifiable reason to leave, and that's a very ambiguous thing, but it also means that I'm not really in a rush. If job opportunities or relationship stuff or family stuff does pop up that pushes me out of the city, I will definitely consider that and use that as a reason to leave, but unless I find something that presents a reason to, I just kind of see myself sticking around for the time being.
Dude, you sound so I used to treat patients in Williamsburg, my first rotation, and then I had a lot of patients who were I'd be oh, where are you from? And they're oh, California, the Midwest and whatnot. And I'm why are you still here? And they're when I was younger, I'd just say I'd be here a couple of years, and then 3 years turned to 5 years, 5 years turned to 10
Dude,
years, and I'm
yeah.
just here living in Greenpoint with my family, so.
Whoa, that's
That'd
crazy.
be crazy if Dave became one of those.
I actually never thought about the option to stay here long term.
Really?
Yeah,
what
I don't
was
know why.
Did you have a game plan of oh, I'm just going to be here
I'm gonna
for...
go to California after.
Oh, okay. Pretty set in. Is there any
No, it's
particular
not
reason
set.
behind that, or just
I just
family?
love California too. Or it's I don't know if the pace of New York I could keep up with for that long. But
It's
now
like
that I think of
Jersey.
it, yeah, if you go to
There's
Jersey or
workarounds where you can still stay in
Brooklyn,
the area,
yeah.
definitely. I mean, I also agree, really the only pressing factor that would push me out of New York is as my parents are getting up in age and they also live in California. I do think that's something I consider moving forward. But also at the same time, I kind of hate driving. And I don't really know many other places in the U.S. where they have that level of public transit where you can get around
Yeah.
accessibly without using, a car or something.
Well, even to that level of convenience, I was thinking over the summer I'd be oh, I want a Gatorade. let me go to the bodega. No, I gotta drive 10 minutes to a
Oh my
fucking
God,
Walmart to get one
true.
Gatorade.
Yeah.
Now it's like a 5-minute walk.
One of the things that I really realize that I enjoy about New York is the fact that everything is so accessible that it allows for like a lot more spontaneity. And so like before this, I was living in Michigan, right? And if you don't know, Michigan is a super car-centric city, right? There's like a bunch of auto manufacturers there. The city is basically designed around roads, which makes it pretty cumbersome to meet up with people, unless you like driving, obviously, if that's your thing. But because of that, it's like there's so much more thought that goes into planning events with people because the car being part of the navigation process just makes it more complicated, right? Especially if you want to go drinking, right? And then
Like the aspect of having a designated driver is
yeah,
just
it's
so,
like it's another
like,
level of complexity you have to
whose
plan
turn
for,
is
right?
it?
Whereas here it's just like because the subway system is always accessible and everyone is within earshot of each other, right? You can just like
Yeah.
text people like pretty fast and get a pretty quick response. And then, within a couple of like an hour or two, you basically already set up something. So I like New York for that respect.
Although, when I think about it, sometimes the commute to places is still like 30,
Still
40,
pretty
50
long, actually,
minutes. I
yeah.
know, but it doesn't feel as bad because you can do other things like read or podcast or like music or whatever.
Agreed.
It's just like you have to be here to understand what that lifestyle is like. Cause like my brother thinks I'm like crazy for like
Really?
wanting the subway versus like driving a car everywhere
Oh.
and stuff. And I'm like,
There's no way we could have cars.
maybe when I'm like 40,
Yeah.
when I don't want to climb stairs anymore.
Oh my
for the life
God.
of me.
I'm generally like still. I mean, again, I want to say that I've always been grateful for the fact that maybe financially that hasn't been like financials hasn't been as big of an issue. But like for people that are thinking about it, I never really saw myself living here. Like I just didn't think the type of person I was, or honestly still am, fits in necessarily with the nature of the city. But honestly, it was something that my sister. It was more of a like a regret based thing where it's like even if I know it wasn't necessarily a 1-to-1 fit. When I'm like 50 or 60 years old, like would I have regretted not trying to live here for a little bit of time? And I think that'll eat you up if that's something you never get around to doing. Obviously, logistics and life circumstances play a huge factor into it. But if it's really just kind of a feeling of just like, oh, I'm comfortable with what I have right now, like, what's the word? Being uncertain is probably one of like the scariest things, right? That's that's what stops a lot of people from doing anything. I'm trying not to get. I'm gonna get off my soapbox, but like if you are
Yeah,
giving
I'm gonna cut you
consideration
off.
to it, it's even if it's not necessarily your cup of tea, I still say like give New York a try for like a year or two and kind of see how you feel. Like it's really as Adrian said, once you live here, it's kind of a different experience compared to what people tell you.
All right. Well, this is not a New York episode, but all really like good points. People should consider, But I know it's a very much like we're looking from inside the box and they're looking from outside the box. Today's episode we're going to be talking a little more about like self-improvement, mental health kind of stuff. Dave, I feel like you've been like really interested in this kind of topic and done like a lot more like purposeful navigation throughout this stuff. So I think there will be some points that we can bring up throughout the podcast that will be good for our viewers to listen to. But also like take this from a perspective of like we're all in our mid-20s navigating life. So make it
Who really knows?
yeah, who really knows? Make it what you will of it. But for today's activity, Dave, I know you hate social media.
That's a strong word.
You do. I feel like I think you have a really healthy relationship with social media.
And that I don't have it.
That's okay. So today's activity, you two are going to work together and blind rank 5 social media platforms. So when I say blind rank, I'm going to give you a social media and you have to put it on a scale of 1 to 5. But after you lock it in, you can't move it anymore.
Okay.
So 1 being like the best one, I guess, and 5 is like the biggest waste of your time.
Okay, so best is kind of just subjective depending on what I think is best,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but you two are going to work together, okay?
Okay.
Remember, once you lock it in, you can't like take it off.
Okay.
And you
Okey-dokey.
don't know what these options are beside the ones I tell you.
I kind of looked at this activity earlier, so I kind of know a little bit of the options.
Okay.
So you're gonna drive this day.
Okay.
But I'll prod you for your thoughts.
I'm game. Let's try it.
All right, Dave. The first one you're going to be ranking is Instagram.
Wait, did you have an Instagram ever?
Very loosely, I had one in like middle school and a little bit in high school. I just was never particularly active on it because I don't really take pictures. However, that being said, I'd say it's probably 2. I'd say it's definitely, I like it a lot more in the fact of like the interactivity. And honestly, I just like saw, this might be cheating as far as kind of how this will influence my rankings, but I saw a survey today about social media platforms that Gen Z wished didn't existed, right?
Didn't exist?
Did not exist.
Oh.
Like they'd never heard of it before. And Instagram was not one of the higher ones. I think about
Oh.
15% of people said they never like heard of Instagram. They wish they never heard of Instagram. And there's other platforms that have a generally more negative reputation.
Wait, like what?
I assume when Adrian pulls them up, I'll probably
Oh, okay.
give more
iPad.
context.
Okay, so number
Yeah.
2 locked in.
I think Instagram is very much our version of Facebook, like for our parents.
agree.
Yeah.
Like it's like not like a super deep. It's not. You don't have to be super engaging to be like a part of it.
Yeah. To be fair though, that is also probably the platform where I have like the least amount of screen time on. So I don't know if I have a really great gauge on the general like idea of it.
All right, so we have Instagram at number 2. The next one is going to be Twitter or X.
I'll probably put that up. Maybe five.
Wow, you think it's the worst one? Really?
Yeah, that
Twitter,
was the one.
X?
That was on the survey. That was one where Twitter/X were like, it was like
Really?
50% of people wish they never like got on that platform to begin with.
Wait, why?
'Cause personally, I don't use Twitter like at all.
I honestly
Yeah.
don't use Twitter either.
I used to use it for like sports gambling. Like,
I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of, Reddit maybe too to an extent, but it's kind of just known as being like a cesspool of like toxicity and stuff like that.
Oh.
And from the algorithms that I like, for the brief time that I used it, it's like it was fine from the get go. But then I realized like after using it for a couple weeks, like the recommended content I was getting was like, wow, this is like not good for me. Right?
Oh, dang.
Because that is when you say like Twitter is like one of the platforms that is most conducive to like rage baiting.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
political
no,
conflict,
I know
right?
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like what's the word? Like not tweet storming, but like clap back, right?
Yeah, like every comment
Venture
section is just like degenerate, just
Yeah.
like rage.
And then I've seen it too
Jeez.
recently where it's just like the amount of bots that fill it up too. It's like kind of crazy.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that feels valid.
Oh, fuck. I don't. You think it'll be a thing in like 10 years?
With the way it's like being driven right now,
I mean, they're not really doing anything besides just like existing.
yeah,
right?
no, I feel like really the only like again maybe this is like everyone has their own like skewed version of kind of what's going on the internet, but like my understanding is just a lot of people just don't like Elon Musk right now and the way that he's directing.
Oh
X.
yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
fair.
I think that's more so kind of the issue behind it at this current point in time, kind of what direction he's planning to take,
Yeah.
as opposed to the actual functionality of the platform.
All right, I'm gonna go a little off script because you looked at the script. Reddit.
Okay, so that's probably one of the ones I spend a lot of time on. I kind of also dislike that I spend a lot of time on it. What about Instagram at 2? I put
Instagram at 2,
X at
X
5.
at 5.
Yeah, I'll do Reddit at 3.
Yeah, I would agree. I
Are
feel
you
like
on Reddit ever?
I keep downloading it and then deleting it because like sometimes the things that I look up are like they're not safe for work, but I don't remember why. Oh, I remember why. Okay, well, they're extracurricular activities and stuff like that. Yeah, dude.
I was thinking something else.
No, I know. I was like, why did I do it? I definitely wasn't. No, but yeah. But then honestly, every time I do look at stuff or like, yeah, just getting people's like raw opinions about different things is really helpful. And then usually Safari is fine, but I think the experience is a little better on the app.
I will say I'm always amazed that Reddit probably has every single topic you could
Yeah.
ever want to look up.
So niche.
Like it's so specific. You're like, huh?
I know.
There's a subreddit for this.
For me, my hypochondriacness thrives on Reddit because then I can search up like the very specific pain that I'm feeling, and then somebody else.
There's always an answer
Yeah.
on Reddit. I was going to say, it's like I feel like every time I Google something, because I tried blocking Reddit on my computer, right, just because I wanted to use it less. And then I realized it was cumbersome because anytime I wanted to like Google a question, like the response was always on Reddit. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. And I think that's where like the use case is actually quite practical, right? It's almost like Quora in that sense where it's just like no matter how niche the question is, for some reason someone has an answer on Reddit somewhere. And so I think
Yeah.
it's helpful in that sense.
But I will say it can also be toxic because there are some topics that are toxic or like
Yeah.
kind of ragey or something. So
I agree. I think there are definitely some subreddits, like the more niche subreddits. Like I guess like that's more of an argument for the internet as a whole. There are some like dark spots that generally you don't really want to go around that
That's
have
true.
some questionable content behind them.
All right, our favorite one. Wait, so right now it's Instagram 2, 3 is Reddit, 5 is X. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 1 and 4 open.
yep.
Yes.
All right, our favorite TikTok.
I'm gonna put that at 4. Yeah, that was right behind X on the survey. And also I
I
just
wish TikTok didn't exist.
huh.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Like that was also one where I've really barely used it, and maybe it's more so the reputation behind it, where it's just like you get sucked into those TikTok rabbit holes really, really easily. I mean, the algorithm is like pretty present in all of these, right? But like I feel like TikTok or short form like video content in general is where I think it's probably some of the algorithm is like the most addictive in that sense, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like of all the stories I hear of people like when they feel like they've done like a social media binge, it's TikTok is usually through the medium.
Yeah.
Yeah, she recently had a social media cleanse-ish.
It was really nice, but you know what I did last night?
You reinstalled it?
Well, I just had time limits on them, so I never uninstalled it. But I had a 1 minute time limit on it, so I took that off. And the first couple of days after I finished my social media cleanse, it was pretty nice. Like I would go on, but I would not like feel that much desire to keep scrolling, so I would just like come off after like 5 minutes. But then yesterday I was like just scrolling through TikTok like for an hour plus again, and it was just so
Jesus
dumb. I know.
Christ.
So I agree. I think I'd put it at 4 too.
What is your argument for?
I mean, I
TikTok
just
being
feel like
beneficial?
I just feel like TikTok is, again, it's kind of like Reddit or Twitter. It just, if you make it like something like useful, it can be something useful. Like for me sometimes, or I had like a dinner party with the roommates recently because I lost a bet. I'll tell you the story some other time. But I was using TikTok as a way to like brainstorm dishes. So I was literally
Okay.
Granted, I fell asleep at 3 a.m.
Oh my
I was like doom
gosh.
scrolling like recipes for like maybe.
Dang.
That sounds crazy. Like 2
Doom
hours.
scrolling recipes. Wait, okay. I will say I totally agree. I think I've learned so much on TikTok, but the ratio of how much I've learned versus just like brain rot
chaff. Yeah.
is like so skewed. And it's also just more addicting. Like for example, Pinterest, I let myself go on Pinterest during my social media cleanse because I don't really get trapped into it. Like I have to be very
Like thirst traps.
I have to like have a very specific reason for wanting to go on Pinterest for like inspo, and it's very researched. So like when I go on TikTok and I'm actually trying to research something, it is really helpful, but if I'm just scrolling, that's when it's like not as useful.
All right. Well, the last one is Be Real.
Oh,
Oh
damn.
my gosh.
I don't know if I've ever used Be Real.
You know the concept of it?
It's just like you take a photo at like a random point in the day, right?
Oh my
It's supposed to
God.
be
Literally.
authentic, right?
Wait, can I take one right now?
No, you still use Be Real?
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
judging you.
no, I haven't used it in
Dave,
a
let's
long
kill her.
time. Dude, this is so cute. Okay.
I mean, by process of elimination, I have to put this at 1 now, don't I?
That's funny.
Oh wait, so reorganize everything now, knowing all the lists. Like,
I thought you were going to say YouTube.
Yeah, I thought so too. I actually,
no, it's too obvious. Cause you looked at the list.
Well,
I
I
gotta change
forget.
it.
Oh, wait, Snapchat was on there too.
Snapchat was on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I didn't even think about that. So right now the list is Be Real, Instagram,
X, Reddit.
Why do you
TikTok.
look like
Reddit.
Caleb in this photo?
TikTok, X, right?
Yep.
Reddit, X. Can you guys make an argument for why Be Real is a good thing? I don't know
I don't
the
think
use
it's a good
case.
thing. I think it's a waste of your time.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
It's like maybe a step above Snapchat.
Okay.
I think there's too many like fad like social media platforms that come
Like
out
Laps?
that are popular. Yeah, that
Belly.
are popular for
No,
like
Belly's good.
a couple months and that's it.
Does Be Real like feed you like how strong is the algorithm? Do they feed you like a lot of ads and stuff, or is it
There's
just
no-
like
There's
photos
ads
on it?
now.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
but they're like
Fucking
normal
hell.
ads. They're not like engaging ads.
Okay.
It's mostly just like who you follow.
Yeah. I'll probably throw that at like 3 and bump up Instagram and Reddit then. So I guess Instagram would be 1, Reddit would be 2.
Damn.
Yeah, Be Real would be 3, TikTok and X are 4 and 5 still, I think. And that's just because I'm gonna, preface all this when saying like if you use social media right, I think it's definitely a net positive. I just think it's very difficult to use social
agree.
media right for the vast majority of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously there's probably some creators out there that really value like their platforms and they use it very, very effectively. But I'd say most people are just like consuming fairly mindlessly for the most part. And that's where I think like TikTok and X are generally for a lot of people maybe more a net negative than a net positive. I say Be Real is like fine, maybe a waste of time, but I don't think it's like actively hurting you. And then I feel like Instagram and Reddit both have their positive qualities, I guess.
Yeah, I do feel like some like platforms like X and whatnot, people are going on there with the intention of making it negative, right? Like rarely are
Yeah.
you like on there for.
It's hard to be in a good headspace
Exactly,
on that
yeah.
platform, I feel like. But, teach their own. Obviously, everyone's algorithm's a little bit different, but just from what I hear from experience and just general voices, it doesn't seem like a great time.
So like, let's say you're like, someone gave $1 million to create the perfect social media app. What are you putting on there?
Jesus Christ.
Or, like what makes a good social media app? And Sarah, please share.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you guys have different perspectives on what makes a good social media app.
That's very difficult. I mean, like it's not like feasible, but I think if like the baseline behind the social media app is to like make money, that instinctively over the long run, I feel like we'll just kind of make it get progressively worse and worse. Obviously, it's not realistic, right? Like I feel like social media, you have to have some sort of like
And this is revenue.
revenue,
Yeah.
and monetization. Like something that I do like using that is, I guess, quote unquote social media, but I feel like the community on there is generally a lot better. Maybe it's just because it's a newer platform is Substack, which is like
No idea what that is, bro.
yeah, it's basically for like blog writers mostly, and so it's just like basically like a lot of writing geeks, I guess, kind of frequents that platform. They have their basically own equivalent of X, and they have like a notes area, which is like a lot more short form content. And I say kind of the big things beyond that right now is like again, I think that the population right now is a lot more niche. Like it's just not a mainstream thing, right? So like everyone's on there because they heard about it. through like other writer friends, I guess. It's generally a very positive platform for the most part. I don't think that they really use ad revenue at all. Like, I'm actually not even entirely sure. I think they monetize through like subscription, right? So obviously that'd be
OnlyFans.
better. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why didn't you put that on the list?
OnlyFans would be right.
Dude.
OnlyFans would be number
Number
one.
OnlyFans is
one,
number
for
one.
sure.
Learn so much on there.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I don't know.
No,
I
that's
guess
a hard
that's the
question.
thing. That
I
is-
was
that is
just
tough.
curious if you had any like,
Yeah.
because I feel like you see a lot of the negatives of these apps, and I'm just like, well, do you know what a good app looks like?
No, like, and that's why, like, I kind of hate talking bad about things. Is like, unless you have like an alternative solution to solve the problem, like, why would you be bitching about bad stuff, right? Because like, it's just like I'm not
You're allowed
helping at
to.
all, right? Of course, like, I guess like everyone has their own, like, everyone's allowed to bitch to an extent, but in general, like, I couldn't tell you what perfect social media looks like. I feel like it's almost like
You'd
infinite.
be a CEO.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, it'd be a little difficult, right? 'Cause
No, but that's fair. That's fair.
it's like, how do you draw attraction to your social media platform without it being a little bit addicting, right? So it's always
Yeah.
like a give and take.
Sarah, what about you?
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, low-key, like, my favorite platforms are Instagram and YouTube, because Instagram, you can do so much. Like, you can do videos, you can do photos, you can do... It's not as, like, journally, like, as much writing vibes. I mean, maybe in the caption you can share some more, like, blog-style things. And then, like, stories are really casual, but you can just, like, share things. I think it just all depends on, like, what your goal is, like, for writing versus for, like, photo stories or like just like a dump or something. But I think what I do wish Instagram had, which I think they have now, I'm not sure. I know they have like close friends on stories,
Say it
but
to the Instagram CEO right now.
wait, who's
Hey,
the
Instagram. I
who's
don't
the
know.
Instagram
Oh wait, no, they're
CEO?
bought by Google. Am I
Oh,
tripping?
Meta.
Meta.
Meta. Anyways, like I wish you could combine your Finsta to your main by like posting only for close friends, which I for some reason I feel like I saw that option at one point, but I didn't go back to look at it. Just cuz like then I don't have to make my own another Finsta account, which actually no, what am I saying?
I don't know.
That's
anymore.
kind of
Just-
nice to have a separation.
Context.
No. So she's saying like, because she has two separate accounts right now.
Right,
One
yes.
is like her Finsta, one is like her main. But then there's a more streamlined way to like combine the two and just make it directly like
Actually,
friends.
never mind. Maybe that's
On a deeper topic, why do you have to present the best side of yourself to strangers?
Yeah, Sarah. What's all that
well, no,
about?
you want to see my like. I mean, there's things that I don't.
What if we were
wanna
all
share.
just like weird?
What do you mean? What if?
Yeah,
No,
what-
it's just like we put on the front that we're like, sexy, beautiful and shit. What if we were all just 24/7 weird?
Wait, like, but we are always sexy and beautiful
No, but we're weird.
and weird.
Yeah, why not both?
Again, I'm just saying, people have Finstas and shit. I'm just like, post
Yeah.
whatever the fuck you want. But no, that's another topic for a deeper time. Oh, deeper topic for another time. But no, that is Instagram CEO. Please fix, please. All right. So Dave, how did you get into? Oh, so the activity's over. Thank you for your, thank you for your opinion.
That took a lot longer, probably. Than
No,
it was
no, no,
supposed
no.
to.
I think again, like I feel like you're like one person who has had like a proper sit down with like, do I need these apps in my life?
Yeah.
I just have everything.
Mm.
I know some shit is bad, some shit is good, but I still use it. So I have a lot of respect when you're able to be like, I don't need these, and here are my reasons why. And
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think mid-20s, you should consider that. You're not like 21 anymore.
Yeah.
Doom scrolling shouldn't be every night.
Dude, we're gonna be like 40 and still doom scrolling.
That's our generation.
My parents
literally.
do. My dad is literally
I
on
know.
TikTok and it's so loud, and then he'll just like lay down on the counter while it just replays over and over again, and I'm trying to sleep. And it's like,
I will say it is interesting seeing what their feed is like. Like my dad has a bunch of like funny animals.
what? That's
That's
so
pretty
cute.
I
Aw.
feel like my parents are always like, shooting happened here. What to
Oh
do
my
in a
God,
dangerous
yeah, yeah,
situation,
yeah.
right?
Oh
I don't know
my
if that's just an Asian
jeez.
parent thing, but they're always just like forwarding different links of like, hey, this is what you need to do if a shooter pops up at the airport.
Dude, yeah. So
Crazy.
cautious.
You're like, good morning, mom. Here's a shooting.
Dude, oh my god.
Okay. So Dave, I want you to like tell the audience more about yourself, I guess, because like I feel like guys are into like a different like slew of hobbies, like video games, sports betting, working out and whatnot. But I feel like, again, going back to the beginning, you've had a lot more experience in this like era of like, well, since I guess when you moved to New York, it's been like self-discovery, learning more about yourself. And I think you put a lot of like effort and like brain power into that. Can you tell us more about like how that started almost?
Yeah, I want to say that like the biggest like aha moment maybe was maybe after college, where at that point in time I was living by myself, right? And I basically like secured career stuff and everything. Like I was basically living fairly comfortable. And I'm sure like as a lot of you know, like once you exit college, the amount of like ambiguity in life just starts to open up dramatically. I kind of realized like back during school and college, like I didn't really actually think too much for myself. I was just always like presented like, okay, this is what you need to do next, right? I was like, okay, that's cool
Like
with me.
that structure almost.
Right, that structure, which can be beneficial in a sense, but like I wasn't really thinking too much for like what is it that I want to do. It's just more like, okay, this seems like the logical next step, and they have like a very a very logical ladder for me to progress upon, right? As far as just like career and life and everything like that. And so I basically just like anytime like something was put in front of me, I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll just do that, right? Like I never gave it too much thought to myself as to like, is that the correct direction to begin with? And I guess there's like several different reasons that are associated with that. Like I think a big part of it, inherently something I still struggle with to this day, is like I'm a people pleaser. And so a lot of the directions I took when I was younger was based off of other people's expectations of me, right? Family, like friends, like just kind of what other people are doing and stuff like that, which is also good to an extent. But I think also, again, it's like something where if you realize that you've lived the majority of your life by other people's expectations of you, again, like when you're old, it's like, well, what, I didn't do anything that I actually wanted to do. I just did everything because they wanted me to do it, right? And I think that's basically what I'm trying to avoid in a nutshell. Again, advice like from my parents and whatnot, and like, go to engineering school for stuff like that. Like it's all rooted in like good faith, and they want what's best for you. And to an extent, like because they've presented that, or like that's my baseline, is like I have a degree in engineering, so like I make a decent living. I'm fortunate enough to kind of be in a position where like, financials or like bills or like getting enough food or housing has never been too much in question, I guess. So like I will always be grateful because of that. But at the same time, I never wanted to like use that necessarily as an excuse to like never think for myself moving forward and just like, oh, I'm going to pursue like a master's or PhD degree because that is the next logical progression in accordance to what my parents expect out of me, if that makes sense. So it was during that time period, I suppose, where I started just thinking a little bit more. I was like journaling a little bit more. I kind of looked online for other people, because I think honestly this is a fairly consistent thing with probably a lot of young Asian population, right? Like apparently one of the reasons why a lot of like young Asian males are addicted to League, right? It's like it's almost their version of like quiet quitting, right? Because naturally,
Wait, what do you mean?
the way that are like
Is it quiet quitting?
it's quiet quitting is maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but in the sense of like generally, I feel like we tend to be just the way that our culture is. We're a little bit more passive when it comes to confrontation with our family, right? So instead of like doing belligerently like, oh, I'm disobeying my parents, right? Like it's just okay, I'm gonna play League of Legends for like 8 hours in the basement instead of doing my homework,
it's
right?
like passive aggressive.
Passive aggressive. It's very passive aggressive, right? I think that's just kind of the way. That's the type of person I am too, for sure. I think a lot of us just don't really have it in us to kind of stand up to them like that. And I don't want to give this as any flack towards my parents. Like honestly,
Dave's saying beat your
they're
parents.
wonderful people. They're incredibly
Fight back.
honestly, the big reason why I think this was a thing was more so not necessarily what they expected out of me, but my idea of what they expected out of me. Like I would build up ideas in my head, maybe based off of like maybe the internet or like other people's
Give an
families. It's
example.
like it wasn't until about last year when I thought that like basically my parents like had wanted me to invest fairly heavily into my career moving forward. It's like they want to be, see me as a son that's like does the prestigious thing, goes to like, works a prestigious job, makes a lot of money, et cetera, so that they can, flex to their family friends, right? I feel like that's a fairly common thing. However, like that again, I never really validated that with them. I just kind of assumed that was the path that I was put on, and I can't really tell specifically what was. It was probably a combination of things that led me to believe that. But it wasn't until I actually talked with my mom about last year, like, and I candidly asked her, like, hey, like, what is it that you want me to do with my life, right? And then I realized she's like, oh, I just want you to be happy and healthy. Like, I don't want you to overwork, work yourself into the ground. It's like I was operating under this guise the entire time that she expected me to achieve great things. But then when I actually had an actual conversation, they're like, oh, there's a lot more flexibility in my life direction than I originally expected, which I think like, is such like a, what's the word, a corny saying, but like communication is really key in that sense, right? Otherwise I would have operated probably like the next 5 to 10 years under that assumption that turned out to be false to begin with. Obviously she wouldn't say no if I like, wanted to pursue like a high paying job or something like that, but she wants me to do that of my own accord as opposed to because she wants me to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's nice that they like create that space for you to tell them and whatnot. But also the flip side of that is like, what if your parents do want? Yeah. I'm not like invalidating your experience. I'm just saying like I think like the whole point of you making like, oh, I assume, but maybe the byproduct is also your friends are going through real situations like that where your parents do want you to like, I guess, become like the caretaker of the family and whatnot.
And that's like unfortunately
it's hard.
I can't speak to that experience is the problem at the end of the day. It's like I have to acknowledge that is definitely an option, and like I'm fortunate to not be put in that position, but there are definitely folks that have tiger parents, right? And they're expected to kind of uphold these responsibilities according to them. I don't know, like I wish I had like a better answer. I guess it's got to be like a bit of a balance. I guess like be conscientious and be respectful of your parents' wills. But like at the end
And
of the day,
beat them up.
yeah, beat the shit out of them. You
The
know?
moral of the story.
Just a full Nelson suplex. But like again, maybe coming from like a what's the word?
Privilege.
Yeah, privileged position. It's just like when you've lived your life and then like if your parents like you're old basically and you've lived everything in accordance to your parents' expectations, will that make you happy? I guess.
I get that.
So like if that does make you happy, right? If like your family's everything and you really want to respect your parents' decisions and you doing that for them makes sense, then by all means do what they expect of you. But if it is something that where it's like no, like I want to do it just so that they're like not mad at me, right? That's maybe something to give like further consideration.
Do you think growing up kind of living for your parents in a way through your perspective of what their expectations were, do you feel like you didn't learn how to choose yourself or like build your own opinions in a way because you always just kind of rely on like the opinions of like your parents or others?
Yeah, even now it's like, I mean, you guys both know I generally am fairly neutral when it comes to a lot of opinions. It is hard for me to even consider like coming up with an opinion on the off chance that it contrasts with someone else's opinion because it's
What
like
are you voting for?
I'm
Don't
probably But yeah, it's like, is that type of, okay, if I was presented with that conversation, right, I probably wouldn't, yeah, I'd be like quite hush-hush, like I wouldn't say much because for me, and again, in this maybe people-pleasing sense, it's like, I don't want to provide an opinion that may cause controversy because that's going to get people to be angry, right? And for me, that just seems like more energy than just not saying nothing, which, it's good to diffuse certain situations. Sometimes you don't want to add oil to the fire, but also like, I kind of lack a backbone in certain arguments. And there are certain things where if I really think about it, like, oh no, I do disagree with this person, but I'm just been so conditioned to like make sure that they're okay that like I don't even present a counter argument. And honestly, most of the time when I present a counter argument, like I'm not the type of person to like bash you for like who you are. Like I just want to present like legitimately a different argument that the other person will usually appreciate, right? It's not like I'm coming from a place where I'm trying to attack them, but it's so hard for me to, when the alternative is to just like let it slide and not have to worry about it compared to bringing up something that might cause like a source of friction. I'm still conditioned to like just let it slide most of the time. And I'm trying actively to work towards that, where if someone says something that I disagree with, I will actually try to bring it up now.
Yeah.
Dude, it's not even that though. Like, just going on we're kind of getting off track here, but I think our society lacks people. Like, it feels like it doesn't feel safe to have opinions anymore just because of like cancel culture, like all that stuff anymore. I feel like just there's no more like exchange of ideas necessarily because like at the slightest hint of like, oh my God, you seem like conservative, people just like shit on you and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel some type of way about that because like for me who did not grow up in America, I'm coming in here with a lot of like, I guess, outsider opinions, especially when it comes to like family culture, like life perspective and all that stuff. And I don't know, it's just like hearing how people are scared to voice their opinions is just like, huh?
Yeah. Wait, so is it, because I always kind of attributed, again, the rise of social media and the internet in general. Like, I think the fact that anonymity and the fact that your opinions are exposed to, like, everyone, right? Those in combination make it really easy for cancel culture to become a thing. But, like, did you notice a difference between America and China? Like, assuming that social media was a component in both those cultures?
I mean, it's hard to say. Oh, well, I guess think of it like this. My upbringing, because we're all international kids, we all brought like a piece of our culture to like Shanghai. So like people could talk about like, oh, we like ate these foods here. Our government's like this here. Especially as we're approaching like a push, world history, like all that stuff. Because the predominant population was not like American. But when I guess came to the States, it's like all of a sudden it's just like, especially in more like liberal I guess like states like New York and whatnot, like the slightest hint that you're like or even like when it comes to like introductions, when you're like, oh, like I'm from Texas or from Indiana, the immediate assumption is, oh, you are conservative and that means you are this, versus like there's not really any grace in like, oh, like I grew up in Indiana, but like this is how I feel about like pro-life, pro-choice, stuff like that. It's so I don't know. There's like an oversimplification of these more complex topics, which I find really disheartening and kind of scary to like voice my own opinion. I mean, like, yeah, I don't think anybody's ever. There are people who are like bad people trying to share like toxic ideas and whatnot, but just even like between like good people, like quote unquote good people, there's still a lack of like.
There's a lot of
sharing.
nuance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think it's like there's some psychological idea behind it, because I was curious. Like, I think people love labels, or like they love stuff being binary, right? Bad, good, like black, white, right? a conservative, liberal, right? And then yeah, kind of based off that, it's like once you hear someone's like conservative, you have like a set list of assumptions associated with that label as well, right? And there's like the reason behind this, I don't want to get too much into it. I guess it's like some evolutionary thing where it's just like maybe when we were getting chased by tigers, right, or something like that, it made more sense that like the idea is like you simplify it into binary so your brain has less stuff to like process.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? And in that circumstance, when you're being chased by tigers, like should I run or should I not? That makes sense because time is actually like very contingent upon you making a decision fast. Our bodies, despite the fact that we don't live in that type of environment anymore where like most things aren't life or death, our brains can't really process it that well, and it's still accustomed to just like immediately assuming like one or the other, basically for the sake of like simplifying the process of making decisions, basically. It's just like, okay, yeah, within the context of the modern environment, it's not the greatest like response that we have.
Sorry, we got so sidetracked.
We can cut all that out.
No. I think there's value in that. These are real problems that arise within our mid-20s. So, all right. So back to the actual topic. What are some like ways to develop skills on like reflecting and being introspective? And I guess not that you were like this, but let's say you meet a guy who's like, bro, hasn't spent any time in like therapy or like, and his girlfriend's like, you're not that like reflective. Like, do something about it. What would you say to that? Sarah, please chime in.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I at the end of the day, I think it does stem from a sense of like, I'd have to tell him like he has to want to do it, right? Like I heard this expression, it's like some philosopher where it's like the unexamined life is not worth living. And I think that's up for debate, to be honest. But the entire reason why I feel like I kind of went on a bit more of an introspective journey was because I came to that realization where it's like, oh, I don't really feel like I think enough for myself. And that's something that I actively want to change. So it's like, I'd say like basically if you're trying to change that about yourself, it has to come from an inherent desire to do it as opposed to, again, an externalized, like someone else wants you to do it too. But if that is the case, right, really the big two things, and these are fairly common responses, is I think journaling is honestly like an incredible thing, especially if like you're an overthinker like myself, just because it's just a good excuse to have ways to kind of like vomit words out of your brain onto like a separate medium. And then once that is done, you can kind of read over it and almost like look at your thoughts from a third person perspective, which I think allows you to be a little bit more objective. Because like I think it's kind of hard to assess your own thoughts when you're in the driver's seat, right? But like the ability to be able to displace yourself from your thoughts and analyze it from maybe a less biased point of view, I think is an incredible skill to have. And that's where it leads into, I think meditation has also been pretty good for me. I think as far as like your outlet of meditation, that is fairly like flexible. It's honestly something that I still struggle with. Like it's not that fun, but I do realize on days where I don't do it, generally like the voice in my back of my head is a little bit louder. I tend to be a little bit more anxious. So I think a combination of like those two as starting points, if you feel like that your mind is always like not where you want it to be, is generally a good place to start. And then the third thing is more so just general well-being, like physically. So sleep well, eat well, try to like sweat, stuff like that. It's all very generic stuff. Yeah.
Sweat. Physical well-being.
I'd say those are probably good starting points to not get too much into detail.
But like, Dave, what is journaling, dude? I mean, like, because even then, like she journals, and I bet you two have very different formats of journaling.
Yeah. And this is kind of my philosophy when it comes to a lot of things. Like, if you want to look into like the semantics of, I guess, how to journal, if you go on the internet, there's like plenty of ways to go about it. Like, my kind of conviction with it is, and this goes with exercise as well as like meditation, is like find the method that works for you, that is like has the least amount of friction associated with it. Like, you can find like a bunch of different these frameworks online, and there's like the write one thing you're grateful for, like, write for like just a stream of conscious for like 3 pages, etc., write out your to-do list, stuff like that. Honestly, just toggle around with a lot of them and see what sticks for you. Like, I don't want to say that my framework or how I journal is necessarily the end-all be-all for how everyone else should journal. And like you said, like me and Sarah probably journal in very separate ways. It's just based off
Dear
your own...
diary.
Yeah.
Dear mommy.
It's just like based upon like your experiences. Like you got to try them out, and then based on your own personal experience, you kind of figure out if that's a good fit for you or not.
Sarah, how do you journal?
I always say, like, when I first started journaling, I would beat myself up because I'd be like, oh, I want to journal every single day for like at least 10 or 15 minutes or whatever, and then it would be so hard to stick to. So now my relationship with journaling is like, I don't want to serve journaling, I want journaling to serve me. So it's like, okay, if I don't want to journal today, it's okay. Like, I don't need to journal today. But if I have a desire to, then like I will. But basically my journaling is more so when I'm stressed out about something, I just want to get it out. If it's something that I literally cannot tell anybody in the entire world, or like I don't want my friends knowing I think this way, or like
that's sus.
It's no, it's like
no, I'm kidding.
It's like sometimes I just have like really raw thoughts or the way that I think about things, and I'm like, that's actually so mean, or it's like it just feels judgmental. It's not something I want to put out into the world. But I need to get it out, and I don't like it. Yeah, it's just like energy and like vibes that I don't want to put out there for anyone,
No,
and like
100%,
and
yeah.
like have that energy be brought onto someone else. Like it's not productive, and it's just like, yeah. And it's like one of those things where that's where like sometimes I feel like, yeah, people can be judgy, or like you have your like first impressions of things, and I'm like, oh, like, well, that's really mean, like I'm such a bad person. But it's like, it's okay, like that's just your first, you know, gut reaction or gut whatever based on like how my experiences in my life or whatever. But then like it's more so what you do with that, or like if I recognize that I'm having these thoughts or something, then I can kind of filter it, or like build muscles to workshop it before it gets to a point where I act on it a certain way.
Yeah. Like it's a bit weird to think about, but I don't, your thoughts don't necessarily define who you are, right? It's like, as you say, it's what you
your
do with them,
actions, yeah.
right? Yeah.
Because like the goal isn't to get rid of every bad thought or judgmental thought, mean thought, whatever. It's like learning how to like process it and like distribute it, and act, either not act on it or
Where, like, in this realm of like self-processing and whatnot, where do you find space for like therapy or like external help? Like, where does that come into the picture of like?
I'm not a medical professional.
No.
Right?
This
Yeah.
Again, this is just from like a very, very raw, like
Perspective.
mid-20 like perspective.
Yeah.
Like, when should I seek therapy?
Yeah. One of my old mentors said something that really stuck with me. It's like, when you think like you finally process the fact that you need therapy, generally means you probably needed therapy earlier, unfortunately.
it's too late.
Maybe a lot of factors go into it.
Wait, let me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
okay.
ask you the same thing, because I feel like you are going through something.
Yeah.
Like you broke up with your ex. so-
Okay. Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm always under the impression that everyone could benefit from therapy, but after seeing a life coach for several months last year, I will say, obviously, if you have like a diagnosed mental health condition, that would be helpful. For people that maybe aren't diagnosed with a mental health condition and just like seeking self-growth or just clarity, or like maybe they're upset or just like have some kind of underlying like sadness or something like that, or just like challenges, totally valid too. But my thing is, maybe for the people that like feel like they don't need it, or like feel generally okay or whatever, maybe it's like if you are kind of having some struggles, or like just some like anxiety or like self-esteem or whatever, like kind of those things would be helpful. I will say, after I stopped life coaching after a certain point, because I felt like, not that I felt healed and like I didn't need it, but it was like I learned so much from him that I felt like I had enough tools in my toolbox to practice on my own from there.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I feel like I could go back now because I have new wounds to dig into.
Sick. Dave, I feel like a lot of us struggle, especially in our mid-20s, with like comparison with other people's lives. Like, you see other people in our mid-20s who are like so much better, quote unquote better than us. How have you dealt with like managing the whole like the expectations of where you should be versus where you're actually at right now?
Oh yeah, that is still like something I probably still struggle with to an extent. I do have a couple things I guess I do to help like combat that. I mean, I think one, again, the fact that I've like minimal social media usage is probably beneficial in that sense. I'm sure you guys have heard the thing where it's like, you know, when people's stories, people's like reels and stuff like that, it's like they're highlighting the top 1% of their day. And when you see that in volume, like everyone's top 1%, you kind of get this skewed interpretation that like, oh, everyone's out doing everything, right? But they're not documenting the remaining 99% that's like super mundane, right? And so then kind of skew our perceptions of like what is actually realistic. So like, that's again where I generally tend to vouch for one of my reasons for not using social media too much. It's easy to play the comparison game in kind of those type of environments. And then the second thing, which I think is a bit more just kind of a perspective shift, is just it's easy to be jealous of someone for maybe like a specific like individual thing that you envy about them, right?
Bitches.
Like bitches. Like
Big muscles.
big muscles. Give me an example. Like we'll say
Chris Bumstead.
Chris Bumstead has hella
Have you
bitches.
seen Chris Bumstead?
No.
I'll show you a photo after.
Okay.
You're gonna be disgusted.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
Like,
Is he a
has-
bodybuilder?
Yes.
Oh,
He's
delicious.
Too much.
Okay, let's just like affectionately refer to this person as like Chad Chaddington.
Chad
right?
Chaddington.
He just seems to have his life put together, right? Everything going on. Or actually, let me think of a bit more example. Like, because the idea behind it more or less is that like you have to accept that they have their own set of flaws too. And like when you want to quote unquote, let's say, adopt someone's like life, it's like, oh, I'd love to live like not Elon Musk, but like I don't know, someone like Jeff Bezos or something like that. Like I want to be like super duper rich. You have to take the entire like all the baggage and the entire life associated with Jeff Bezos as opposed to just money, right? Because
Did you see that one NVIDIA interview where they asked the CEO if he would do this all again? And he was like, hell no.
yeah.
No, I get what you
yeah.
mean.
In a sense, it's just to say it's like it's easy to like glamorize the good about a person, right? But like with the good, you have to also adopt the bad too. And honestly, Phil, all you know, right? Like from that CEO's perspective, it's like, oh, it seems like he's all put together, but everyone has their own like baggage and demons they have to deal with. It's just his is different than yours, right?
I feel like as I've grown up, I've been able to like take that more to heart, like not take people's highlight reels to heart, because I just know that everybody has their shit. Like every person has their ups and downs, every relationship has its ups and downs, no matter how good people seem, or like every family has their shit. Like yeah, just the whole comparison game just has no end and no purpose.
Yeah. And like I would also take it upon yourself to like define what your definition of success might look like as well, for lack of better words. Or again, it's like for me, I don't really think that having like a high achieving career or something like that, or being like, I'm not the most ambitious person at the end of the day, so like why would I try to compare myself to these people that are making a bunch of money, that are like climbing the corporate ladder? Because maybe for them that is their definition of success. I've been like led to believe that is a good traditional definition of success, but like when I think of it from my own perspective, that is not what I want honestly out of life when I really think about it. So it's like, yeah, maybe they're making strides in their particular area, but like if that's not necessarily what you want out of life, then how is that helping you towards your own personal success?
I will say like there is a healthy layer of comparison, or healthy level, because it can help you like know what is out there or what you could be capable of, but it's like a fine line to like
Yeah.
not completely
You
want
overdo
to
it.
yeah.
Even like with the topic of like, you need to know what your life is. You need to know what that life is, first of all. Like your definition of your goal can't just be success. Like
Right.
you have to vividly understand how what these actions and components will actually contribute to that like overall dream. Like I think maybe coming out of college, your dream is just, I want to be successful and a happy family. What does it actually mean? Like it's not as easy just getting a job, making money, finding a girlfriend. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like the nuances of having a relationship, like having a job, all that stuff, like real life shit, you know. So
And it's totally like when you say stuff like that, like having money and a family, like that's also like the end goal too, which like most of our lives are not living in the end goal. Like my end goal is to get like a higher paying job after my like
So
fellowship,
you're
right?
85?
Oh, excuse me. Or okay, say my like end goal is to become a full-time content creator. Then like
not with this podcast.
nobody said with this one. I'm kidding.
What's the
Our
subscriber
podcast is
count right now?
splitting, huh?
What's the subscriber
We're
count?
87.
Oh, damn.
We're growing.
Dang.
10 episodes, 87.
Yeah.
Oh, this is our
Our 11th. We're filming our 11th episode.
Yeah. We're gonna celebrate.
Watch out,
100.
Mr. Beast.
Yeah, coming for you. God, what was I saying? Oh yeah, just like the end. I've been living my life where like I'm not. Yes, I have a goal, but like I'm really trying to appreciate the ups and downs and just genuinely the journey of getting towards that, because most of my life is spent getting towards that goal. And I feel like if I don't enjoy, like I don't want to wait for something to be happy and be like yes, feel fulfilled, because then I'd be wasting my entire life trying to chase that one moment, and then when I get to that moment it's not going to feel that fulfilling, because then there's going to be something else. So it's just like even the bad parts are like I brain farted.
All right, thanks, Sarah. You guys want to share on that note what you guys are like living for right now? I can go first if it helps you guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think so. I actually did fall in the trap of like, what's the next thing? Because from high school, I was like, I want to be a PT. I want to go to PT school. And now that I've become a PT, I don't know what to do anymore. Come on, let's make a podcast. No, but genuinely, like, I think instead of focusing on my end goal of like having a family and buying a house and shit, I'm genuinely just like, I want to take care of the people I love around me. And that just means showing up for my girlfriend, showing up for my family, and showing up for my friends. And, like, that's all I need right now to satisfy me in this era of my life.
That's awesome.
So I hope, obviously, with the job and whatnot, I'm able to do that more for people, you know. And that's literally all I want. Like, our podcast could go down in flames.
Okay.
And I'd be more than happy, as long as, like, everything else, the people I love are taken care of.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
Do you see that as like a baseline fulfillment for your entire life, or do you think possibly things could change in the future?
I think for my entire life, I think like it's a good goal to have, because you're able to kind of gauge what that is like in the moment. Like, is Rebecca happy? But also, like, I think if that were to be like the rest of my life, I think I'd be okay with that.
Aww.
No, not just Rebecca, like my family, my friends too.
Oh.
Like Dave more than Sarah.
We already knew that. I feel like I'm more in an era right now of
Looking for a boyfriend.
okay, no, finding myself. I think like last weekend I just had so much clarity on what it might feel like to feel like basically I feared
After
killers.
Zed.
Yes, after
She
Zed.
found herself.
I did find
During the song
myself.
Clarity.
I genuinely.
Oh, my clarity.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's actually hilarious. But basically, I have this fear of being independent, especially after a relationship and being in a relationship for basically 7 years, or like different relationships for across 7 years. I like don't know how to show up for myself or like trust myself. So I think, wait, what was the original question? Like, what are you?
Oh, yeah, like what are like goals you're like
Yeah.
tiny goals you're living for right now?
Yeah. So like during my healing process, the ups and downs are like there, but during some of the ups, when I see a little bit more of that clarity of like what I'm capable of for myself, clarity. I can get glimpses of like feeling fulfilled for myself, like showing up for myself and like being grateful and still loving like the people around me, but also like knowing that I can be there for myself too has been a journey. And yeah, I feel like that's kind of what my bubble of life is right now.
Everything to share, Dave? Say something profound.
Yes. I'm trying to say this without saying like a gazillion words.
3 words.
3 words. God's plan.
That's 2 words.
God's great plan. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, I guess as far as I want to say that there is, again, as Sarah mentioned before, it's not like one or the other. Like I think there is a good balance to be had between goals and enjoying the journey to get there. I will say within my context, I've definitely also been in a situations where I was definitely more driven by the goal, such that like I didn't really enjoy the process of getting there, and I just assumed that once I reached the finish line, I'm like, oh, okay, now I'll be happy, right? Mm-hmm. That's it's called the arrival fallacy, and like Sarah said, it's really like not that much different once you actually get there, right? It's like you got to enjoy the process of that. And so what I'm trying to do now more is, it sounds so, but this is like bogus. This is such like a generic idea, but it's really that whole self-discovery thing where in the past I would have like these concepts of what I think would make me happy when I arrived, but they were never really actually rooted in my personal experience. It's more like I just think that this is what I would want in the future, right? Now I'm trying to just like do more things such that I have more evidence to kind of showcase. It's like, oh, okay, I've done, you know, like I like doing Muay Thai, right? For instance, that is something inherently where the process in itself is enjoyable, as opposed to I have a particular goal that I want to achieve by doing this particular exercise. And I'm kind of using that as like, okay, I enjoy the process enough. Like I built up enough firsthand evidence to understand that I enjoy Muay Thai because of the times that I've done it. I've always enjoyed doing it, right? It's not because it's like, oh, I want to become some sort of amateur fighter and that's when I'm going to be happy. And so in general, the idea right now, especially when...
Why are you laughing?
Hey,
He
what
beat
the
your
heck?
ass.
You're a professional fighter.
Wait, redact that. I did not beat her ass.
You would though.
Hey.
I mean, I throw hands.
I
yeah,
would
but,
be your ass.
but like... I just gotta cut all that out. I'm sorry.
We're not gonna do
Comment
that.
down below if you want me to want to
Beat her ass.
see
Comment
me
below
beat
if you want to watch Dave and
Equal
Sarah
rights,
fight
equal
on
lefts.
camera. Oh, that was good. I like that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Did you hear that?
What?
Equal rights, equal lefts. Does that make sense? Because like,
No,
God
this,
damn
yeah,
it.
it's not, the
Equal
joke's not
rights.
funny when
Yeah,
you explain
she-
it.
Wait, what?
continue.
Wait, like equal rights?
No, shh.
Yeah.
Dave is talking.
Talk.
In essence, the idea is to build up, like, fortunately, New York is a great place to do this, where you just build up a bunch of experiences, and then I basically will use that moving forward to kind of influence my future decisions as to what I think would actually be, quote unquote, my definition of success or happiness. Does that make sense to you guys?
No, that's fire.
Equal
Yeah.
rights, equal lefts.
Shut up, Sarah. All right, believe it or not, we're actually approaching the end of our podcast, Dave.
Can't believable.
I feel like I went completely off the tracks.
No. See, when you're having fun with good people, like Adrian, bad people,
Hey,
Sarah.
like Legion.
Legion.
Legion is the best.
Legion's the best.
Podcast could do without Sarah, though. And GL.
Excuse me. I feel like
Yo,
I
if
was.
we ever split, you can take the TT, I'll take the YL.
Oh my gosh.
TT podcast with Sarah. All right, I'm gonna role play as Chad Chaddington again. This is kind of the final question.
Okay.
All
Hey,
right.
Chad.
Detail.
Scene. So Dave, I feel like my growth is
wasn't
really
British
stunted
before.
here. I'm not really learning much about myself, and I feel stuck in this rut. What do you recommend me do next?
Go back to Love
Do you
Island.
understand that?
Yeah.
I'm stuck in a rut.
Yeah, I got
See,
that.
Chad is stuck in a rut,
Yeah.
not me.
I just don't remember Chad being British the first time that we created him. That was British, right?
That was British. You got that?
Wait, what was the question?
If you're stuck in a rut,
Oh.
like you feel like your growth is stunted, what is the next best thing to do?
Have some banana cream Olipop. Hashtag not sponsored. It's just really good.
Go to Zed.
Yeah, actually, yeah, go to Zed.
I guess just like
Yeah.
the bigger fuck. I'm stuttering.
No, it's okay.
The biggest thing behind the question is like when we talk about like mental growth, like self-discovery, we assume it's just like this progress, like what, exponential or like
linear progression. No, I agree.
When someone is like, oh, I'm journaling, I don't feel like I'm getting any better. Like,
Yeah.
or there's so many instances where therapy is just not working for them.
Yeah. I do want to say kind of on that note, what I was thinking is I feel like there's like seasons of like you're gonna I think it's just natural to feel stuck at certain periods of time, right? Like maybe if it extends for like years, I'd be a bit more modestly concerned about it. But it's just something that I think that comes along with just like living is it's only natural to feel like at certain points in time you're questioning yourself, you're feeling stuck. I guess when you are in those circumstances, obviously patience is one thing. Honestly think sometimes you just gotta wait it out and eventually I think some stuff will come together. I will say maybe as like an alternative option is do your best to kind of cut out external noise for a good chunk of time, whether that be social media, honestly maybe even communication with certain people. It's like not as like what's the word, stringent, just like staring at a wall for 24 hours, right? But I do think like a good chunk of I guess like why we kind of struggle to think about certain things is because there's so much noise going on, right? And sometimes listening to the noise is a lot less work and a lot more appealing than actually having to like dig deep inside and kind of actually assess certain things, because that can be really scary sometimes.
Would you like to say anything,
Man,
Sarah?
there's so much. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Patience and grace. And like, I think it's so easy. I know in my experience, when I feel stuck in life, I like get pissed off at myself and get really frustrated because I'm like, why the heck am I stuck? Like, I shouldn't be stuck. Like, I'm wasting my time. I should be happy, blah, 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 blah. But like, kind of like what I was saying with happiness, it's like I agree with you. It's just part of life. And then I think more so this year in New York, I've really embraced the whole seasonality thing. Like, things just happen in seasons. And like, I think a really important thing is to have hope, to be honest, and like genuinely believe that like things will be okay. And I think something that helps me is trying to think of my life from my friend's perspective or just like a third person's perspective, because I'm so stuck in my view of my life because I'm in it and I'm the one experiencing things and I'm the one in my thoughts. But I could be experiencing what I'm experiencing, but like maybe from Dave's perspective, he looks at my life and he just genuinely trusts that like, oh, she might be going through something, but like, you know, Dave might truly believe for me that like, oh, she'll get through it. Like there'll be a time where she'll pick herself back up, things will change. It might just take some time, but like you might genuinely believe for me that like I'll be fine.
Yeah.
So that's like kind of borrowed hope from your friends and stuff that like, yeah, that perspective helps me sometimes.
Thanks for being here, Dave. Really appreciate it.
But yeah, that's a wrap for our episode with Dave today. Again, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for all your insight. It was very insightful. But thank you guys again for tuning in and hanging out with us. With that,
TTYL.